Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the old cookbook show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this cookbook. It's from 1942, so it's a little bit outside of what I normally do in terms of time frame. But I think it's very interesting because it is the Handbook of Home Economics for use in the elementary schools of Hamilton, the Hamilton Board of Education. Hamilton's a city not far from where we live here in Canada. And I think it's interesting because this is the home economics course for elementary schools, which would be children from kindergarten to grade 8, maybe. I'm not sure exactly how they broke it down in that time period. Oh, there it is, grades 7 and 8. So this is meant for grades 7 and 8. And it's quite an interesting book in what they were teaching school-age children at that time in terms of cooking. And so the recipe we're going to do today is a caramel junket. And junket is this stuff right here. I'm always amazed when I see it at the grocery store because it's something that my grandmother used, and I don't see a lot of people making junkets anymore, and yet it's always on the shelf at the grocery store. It's always for sale. So someone out there is still using it. Do you still use junket? Do you still make junket? So the first instruction is to heat 2 cups of milk to lukewarm. So I've got a little pot here, got it over low heat, and we'll just let that come up to temperature. Meanwhile, in this pot, we're going to caramelize some sugar. Now I'm going to say that this textbook was probably in use in the United States because I've noticed in several places there are spelling mistakes, or they use the American spelling rather than the Canadian spelling of words, and that's probably slipped through. The Hamilton Board of Education probably just bought this off the rack and had their own cover printed for it. And one of the other things that I find really interesting in this book is that at some point between 1942 and 2020, someone has cut out their favorite recipes. So on pages there'll be parts cut out, and I don't know what those recipes were. They must have been really good. Okay, the sugar has caramelized, so now I add 1/3 of a cup of hot boiled water, and we mix this together. And we need to cook this down to a syrup, and it says that we need about 1/3 of a cup of syrup. So I'm just going to stir it and watch it fairly closely because I don't think it'll take that long. I think I've got this at the right point. So now it says to remove from the heat and cool. But it doesn't say how cool. I guess that's a question I would ask my grade 5 home ec teacher. If I was in fact allowed to take home ec, I know that even when I was in school, boys weren't allowed to take home ec. We weren't allowed to take typing either until they changed the name of the typing class to keyboarding. And once it was called keyboarding, it was okay for boys to join in. So I'm going to let this cool before we move on to the next step. And that next step is to slowly mix the warmed milk into the caramel sauce. Oh, that's pretty nice. Okay, I think I can go all in. Now that that's all mixed together nicely, I have to mash up one of these rennet tablets and dissolve it in a little bit of water. Look, there's a little recipe booklet inside the package. Okay, so tear open the little foil package. And there's a little tablet inside, which I've already mostly broken up, just even trying to get it out of the package. So, take the back of a spoon, mash it up a little bit. It doesn't say how much water to dissolve it in, so that's about a teaspoon worth. And we'll mix that to dissolve it. And this is the final mix, the final few ingredients. So, the dissolved rennet goes into the milk, and just make sure I get all of it in there, and a pinch of salt, a little bit of vanilla, give that a good stir, and then it says to pour it into a glass dish. Now it says to leave this in a warm place until it sets and then stick it in the fridge to chill. So I'm just going to leave this on the counter, room temperature, and see what happens. That took about 20 minutes to set up into something that's fairly stable. So into the fridge it goes.
Hey Glenn, what you got in the fridge? Hi friends.
Junket.
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 Looks a bit puddingy, custardy.
A lot of people call it a custard. I wouldn't call it a custard because it doesn't have eggs.
Okay. But it's got milk.
It's milk and rennet, or the Junket rennet tablets.
So as you serve this up, because it's got rennet in it, is this like step one for making cheese? Or is this a completely different methodology and this is something completely different, just the same coagulant?
It is the same coagulant. It is kind of on the road to cheese in a way. I mean, it's a curd, not a whey.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's I don't know.
Oh, that's a fair enough answer because,
So it is.
sometimes you don't.
So rennet is a coagulant. It is the one that's used in cheese. This is something my grandmother served all the time.
Oh, yeah? I don't think I've ever had it. Ever. It's very smooth. It's very
super smooth.
smooth.
The caramel is really nice.
Was it any more difficult than making a standard pudding?
Oh, it's way easier.
Way easier.
Way easier.
So that would be a reason to make it more often then.
Yeah, it's and you can kind of, as I'm cutting it up in my bowl, you can see the curds and the whey separating. So
now I'm imagining caramel flavored cheese.
yeah, so it's
dessert cheese at its best.
But
I don't think that's possible.
I know that we're saying cheese, but it has nothing to do with it's the flavor, the consistency.
No, it's
None
like
of that has anything to do with cheese. And it's much lighter than a custard, like an egg custard. Mm-hmm. The texture's really kind of interesting.
I think with the milk, it still has that creamy milk texture.
Yeah.
And you use milk.
I did use milk, yeah.
So I wonder if it would I wonder how the texture would change if you use cream and if you would still be able to do it.
In the little recipe pamphlet that came with it, there are recipes for ice cream. And earlier today, when I was doing this, I put something out on Instagram and on YouTube, and people said they made this ice cream when they were kids.
So this would be an egg-free ice cream
Yes.
for those who have
Yes.
egg allergies and
Yep.
things as such.
Yep.
I will say that you must like it because your bowl is empty.
It is empty. I think this is pretty good. I think this is something, I see this in the grocery store all the time here. And listening to other people responding to the question that I put out this morning on Instagram and YouTube, a lot of other people find it in their grocery stores all the time. So it is out there. It's easy to get in most places, I would think. I'd give this a try. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. And the booklet will then often be found serviceable to them in their housewife duties. In addition, will serve to remind them of the happy hours spent in school. Thanks, Frank Perney.